Well, thank you again for joining this evening. Thank you for your joining in our practice together, meditation practice. And there is some distinction in meditation practice between different lineages of Buddhism and even between the different teachers who help guide the practice at ICD. Sometimes meditation, as it comes down to us from the original Indian tradition, in a lot of lineages, the focus then will be on cultivating a quiet mind, cultivating stillness and introspection. And I think that's synonymous with meditation for many people. Many of the people that come to meditation, people who come to Yokoji, people who come to ICD and other groups are at a place where they, for one reason or another, feel that meditation may be of some help. And often the reasons for that are stress, or difficulty, but it could be many different reasons. But the goal is often to learn to quiet the mind, or to find equanimity, or find more serenity in this experience. And we can certainly practice stillness and learn concentration techniques in meditation, and that is a worthwhile use of the practice, a worthwhile endeavor. To breath awareness is a complete practice in itself. If we spend some time in sitting and being concentrated in regard to the rising and falling of breath, simple breath awareness practice, or maybe counting exhalations, several different techniques, but that breath awareness practice will cultivate, help to quiet the mind, tend to quieten down thought, thinking, and cultivate peace. I'm sure many of us have appreciated meditation in that way. And for myself, I begin meditation in that way, in the settling down process. That's why I bring in the talk about the deeper breathing and how to enter meditation. It helps make the shift for the body mind recognizes the practice, is used to the practice. And so if we just honor the basics of settling down, then naturally things begin to settle down. Now, in the Zen school, when meditation came to as an import from India to China, something happened there where meditation was worked in, or added to the practices of more Taoist practices of the day. Meditation wasn't a clearly defined formal practice within Taoism in that time, as far as we know. Indian Buddhism, very strong with meditation, comes into the Taoist way of experience and practice. And then meditation takes on a little different flavor than just being the cultivation of concentration and stillness. In the Zen tradition, or in just sitting, the approach which I bring up week after week, the goal is not to quiet the mind, or to reduce thought, or to manipulate reality in any way. There's healthy manipulation, also you can have a positive manipulation of reality, right? We can have, of course, many negative manipulations of reality, but if we're seeking more stillness, or concentration, or centeredness, we could say that's still a manipulation, although it's a positively guided or intentional one, right? But with Zen sitting, or just sitting, it's ceasing the manipulation of experience. It's a little different in terms of, well, it's very different. So whether thinking is happening or not is not important. The only thing that is important is to arrange the body for sitting in a safe and reasonably comfortable manner, and then to strike a bell, and then it's the art of doing nothing at all. The art of not pursuing anything at all or rejecting anything at all, but just an allowing and a looking. And this is where this allowing and looking of this direct experience is the alignment that takes place. What we're seeing is we're right at it's kind of like being at the event horizon where things emerge and disappear, where things come into reality and things disappear from reality. But reality, like this life experience, it's always completely full. It's never lacking. In what we talk about in Buddhism about things coming into being and then disappearing, it's somewhat provisional. When you really look, nothing's appearing and nothing's disappearing, but rather everything is unfolding and changing in appearance. But it's the full wholeness of experience, which is always thus. And then our eye is often drawn towards the change. And the me, I centered identity is enamored of the change. And the me, I centered identity is the one who is involved in attachment and aversion. Right? So the human sense of me, I, quite naturally as a human being, has like and dislike and has preference. And we bring that into our sitting, or we can bring it, that's there, can be there in our sitting, where how it's unfolding we may have opinion about and be disturbed by some change of phenomena and not disturbed by other change of phenomena. But the strict practice of just sitting is the faultless, non-preferential direct experience of thusness, of which is a fancy word for just this reality. Now, why is this useful? If we cultivate quiet states, or we cultivate stillness, we cultivate concentration, anything that we cultivate is impermanent. It's anything that we manipulate in reality on the scale of attachment and aversion is something which is non-enduring. So we can cultivate stillness and concentration, but then when we leave meditation, or when things get busy, or we get on the phone, or we start getting involved, then that stillness and concentration then decays or disappears. And now that is not to invalidate the practice of stillness and cultivating peace. Again, it's a wonderful, it's a salve. It's like taking a supplement for the body mind, right? It's like we're adding stillness and cultivating peace, and that's a wonderful process. But the deeper inquiry of Zen sitting, or just sitting, is the non-cultivation and just the direct apprehension of reality. And I say that direct apprehension of reality because realization that we talk about in Zen is you need to be in contact with in order to see and understand, in order to realize it, which means to make it real. So that direct apprehension is the noticing, seeing, and being deeply involved with. So that may happen when we're sitting and we're listening. The ears are open and you hear sound, and that's fine, no problem. Maybe a little story comes up around what the sound means, but that's not a problem, and I can fall away. And then we return to silence, and we're listening to silence with the same open awareness, and it's still, again, there's no problem. And this extends through the internal and external, whatever's being felt and experienced. It's just that open, allowing acceptance. That's how you sit, that way we sit in company with the way. And why is it of use? Well, again, as human beings, we're always in attachment and aversion. There's ups and downs and in betweens, right? But in the open allowing and accepting of things as they are, that is a gate to it really is a gate to liberation, because it is a complete cooperation with present reality. Things are indelibly and irrevocably as they are. We sit in company and allowing of that. That is then permeates. It's that way anyway. But what we think or what we see or don't see about that is what can cause us issues. But it is that way anyway. That becomes real in sitting, then that also is real in activity. The difference there is in, as we're going around our daily activity, like I have a grumbling monologue that goes on, it's been going on all day. From the moment I got up, you get have those kind of no flow days. You get up and something, and then that didn't work, and then the next thing is kind of broken, and then it just sort of snowballs, and you're just like, oh my, and you just kind of involved in one of those things, and that's fine. That's just a human life, right? And if we compare it to somebody else, I'm just like, well, my problems are really first world minor problems today. We can put it into context, but as human beings, there's always that dukkha or dissatisfactoriness that the Buddha talked about, whether it's minor, or whether it's more serious. The practice of Zen, of a realization, is to then, when that narrative of that story and the monologue that's playing in the mind is witnessed and experienced, the greater awareness, again, that one is sitting in company with the way. If the way is not forgotten, the one that you have realized through all of this sitting practice, that can just witness thoughts and things coming up, can watch our own mind and its monologue, and it's thinking about this and thinking about that. But there's space, and it's not the same clinging of identity. It's not all out to get me. Me may be grumbling about this and that, but that's okay, because that's sort of the nature of me, right? That's that me, I nature. But you're also a Buddha. You are a Buddha, and a Buddha can listen all day to the one who's complaining and have endless patience and have the patience to do so, and can encourage, or like a pat on the shoulder and say, that's, sorry about that, keep going. That's the one we realize through Dharma practices. It's that the Buddha nature, it's what we call this original nature, the base awareness, the mystery of being, all of these words that we can pile on to try and point at this essential mystery that we're all involved in right now and have always been involved in right now. This is that Buddha nature. You align closely with this, then you also see your human nature and the human nature of others, and realize that's a mess that never gets cleaned up thoroughly. It's like it's always broken on one level. There's always a flaw. It's always difficult on one level for all of us. For human, rising and falling isn't all suffering. It isn't all difficulty. There's joy and love and amazing things that are happening too. But the human experience is a roller coaster in that sense, right? But the Buddha experience is the open view from 50,000 feet. right? That's like the macro view, like it's like the view from that that sees from above. If you just look at it in that way, the analogy, and just looks, just watches, just experiences. That way there can be a rising and falling and churning of all kinds of emotion and feeling, commentary and narrative, and that's okay. You can sit and allow it and hold and then lean into that with both wisdom and compassion. The wisdom that says this is so and this is allowed. This is so. This is not denied. This is allowed as it is. And you let it play. But then the compassion that doesn't call it bad, doesn't call this one wrong, doesn't call the world wrong or other people wrong or anything right or wrong, that lets go of right and wrong, just breathes, is being breathed and watches and allows. And just allows that process to unfold from the safe place of the Buddha's seat, whether on the couch or a chair or a floor. You are that one. It's like claim your Buddha nature in that sense. It's like for this 30 minutes of time, I'll sit as a Buddha. Then rather than you being in company of the way, you are the way in the company of the one who has your name. Right? And that one needs some encouragement and some support. But this encouragement and support that you receive is to return and to turn in and to find that place of the original awareness, that original nature that each of us is without exception, that can watch, experience, and allow. So I say, at the beginning of meditation, give 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes toward cultivating stillness and concentration. Use breath awareness practice as a powerful salve for a difficult day. But once that is established and the body and the mind is settled, then awaken to your intrinsic Buddha nature, which isn't hidden. The Buddha is hiding in plain sight. That's what you awaken to. It's this. Sit and then look, experience, allow. I wanted to bring something up of a koan. This is from the book of Equanimity. Again, no great surprises. This is case 14. Attendant Keiku serves tea. Okay, so let's bring this up as an example. Attention! Attendant Keiku asked Tokusan, his teacher, where did the holy ones of the past go? Tokusan answered, what? What's that? Keiku said, give an imperial order for a fleet horse, and out comes a lame tortoise. How rude, right? At that, Tokusan desisted. The next day, Tokusan was leaving his bath, and Keiku brought over him some tea and served it to Tokusan. Tokusan patted him on the shoulder. Keiku said, old man, at last you're beginning to see. And Tokusan again desisted. Okay, after my overly lengthy preamble, we got 20 minutes to crack this koan case, but we'll see what we could do to try and at least lift out the main point. Just for some context, Tokusan was one of the great Chan teachers, great Zen teachers of the Tang Dynasty. He was known for being very fierce and rigorous in his youth and his early teaching days. He used the shout and he used a stick to whack his students, shout at his students. He was one of the one of one of those types of Zen teacher of that era. Very rigorous, and he was quite daunting in his youth. But here we find him as an elderly gentleman, and he's in the company of his attendant. An attendant, we call that a jisha in the Zen school in our lineage. It's the person who looks after the teacher, is in kind of a close contact. We still do that at Yokoji. The jisha of the attendant will meet the teacher for coffee in the morning. We'll get up a little earlier, meet them for coffee, um, and then carry the incense where you go around the altars. So it's like a training position and part of the teacher apprenticeship model in Zen. Now, in this case, as Tokusan's like quite elderly, his attendant with him was likely, one could presume, had been with him for many years, had been in that position. To be a trusted position and a position where somebody's had quite a lot of practice. But he's a much younger gentleman. And he asks Tokusan a Zen question. Yeah, he says, where did the holy ones of the past go? All right, so that's one of those kind of classic Zen questions. Where did the Buddha go? Now, after my preamble, maybe someone could answer that. Where did the Buddha go? Where's the Buddha now? Where did the holy ones of the past go? I saw someone wave. Right, where did the Buddha go? Where did the holy ones go? Where did Thich Nhat Hanh go? Where did Master Dogen go? Outside of the Dharma, where did our grandparents go? Where do people come from? Yeah, this is quite the question. Where did the holy ones of the past go? Master Ikkyu, Rinzai Zen master, was one of his students said he wasn't sure how he could practice after Ikkyu passed away, and Ikkyu said, "You can still talk to me, but don't expect me to answer." Yeah, there's a teacher in San Francisco, Isan Dorsey, who started a hospice project. I think as part of San Francisco Zen Center, so some years ago, when he was close to passing away. One of his students said, "I'm I'm going to miss you when you're not here." And Isan said, "Why? Where are you going?" So this is a teaching device, and people, a good teacher still at the end of their life is using an opportunity to point. Where did the holy ones go? Where is the Buddha if the Buddha's not right here? Where are the realized ones of the past, present, and future? Sure, the bodies are no longer here. The person with the name, we talk about that one, the identity that has a history and a linear narrative from beginning to end. But how about the one who's always here? What have we realized there? Do we know that one? Can we make contact? Or even better than making contact, can we wear the same clothes? Tokusan's very old. He says in answer to this question, "What's that?" You know, it's like, not, we didn't have the higher tech hearing aids in 6th century China, so right? It's just, what's that? He maybe doesn't even hear him. Who knows? Keiku says, "I asked for an imperial order for a fleet horse, and out comes a lame tortoise." Is that, how rude, right? Young guy, full of himself. Aren't you a great Zen master? You one of the, right? You're one of the, supposed to be one of the greats. I ask you a Zen question, you can't even answer. And what's the state of mind of a young monk there? And how is that to talk to an accomplished elder in that way? Tokusan lets it go. The next day, Tokusan's having his bath. Now you could tell he's an elderly Zen practitioner at this point, because in those days, apparently, and it's still practiced in Japan now, is in some temples, you'd get a bath, let's say not often. It's like having a bath is a real would be like a hot bath. I have a friend who practices in Japan, and at the end of Rohatsu, the fierce session, the Buddha's enlightenment session in December, they have like a hot bath, like a hot tub, Japanese wood fired hot tub, and everybody gets in together, and they spend when they finish the retreat, and apparently it's just a really like it's just a joyous time, to struggle for 7 days like the Buddha, freezing cold, and then to hit the hot tub. So Tokusan has his bath the next day, and Keiku's looking after him nicely. He's his attendant, brings him over a cup of tea. Tokusan and pats him nicely, pats him on the shoulder, and Keiku goes in for another go and says, "Ah, old man, at last you're beginning to see." Right, so the first question Keiku asks him, and he gets no answer. He says, he's quite rude and says, basically, great Zen master, can't say anything. This time, he just brings him a cup of tea. Tokusan claps him on the shoulder, and he comes at it from a different angle. Ah, alas, you're beginning to see. And it's said that Tokusan here again desisted, didn't say anything. Right? So this is an interesting koan, because they could bring up and say, well, who won and who lost in this? And what was learned? The important one with this one is to look into the state of mind of each of the characters. Sometimes Zen dialogue, it's like a game of I was going to say it's like a game of chess, but maybe it's more like table tennis, because it's fast and you've got to knock it back quick. Like the attendant wants to ask a deep question. Tokusan doesn't answer. Not answering is an answer in itself. Tokusan pats him on the shoulder, and now he comes at him with another barb, and he lets that one go too. There's not much to say on this koan without giving away the heart of it. It's one to ponder and to look at, and it's not my role to like explain them, right, but rather to bring them up and to try and open them up and unpack these interactions and principles, just for a way for us to get us to arouse our curiosity, and to look at how we function, how the mind function, and how we understand this mysterious life. I will say that for the young monk, he's trying to know, he wants to understand, and he wants to win. There's a time for that. There's a time for that in our lives, right? You want to know, you want to get something, you want to gain something, and you want to succeed, and you want to be the best. Tokusan's in a different state of mind at this point, right? He's not concerned with winning and losing. But and if you win all the time, that can be a problem. I listened to a really good podcast the other day. It was Lex Friedman, and he was interviewing I'm going to forget the gentleman's name now, but he was a coach of Mike Tyson, the boxer, for a while, and he had a lot of like wonderful, very blue collar wisdom to share. And he was talking about Mike Tyson, the boxer, and he said, "How would you describe him as a great? Where would you rank him as in great fighters?" And this coach said, "To be honest, I wouldn't call him a great fighter." And I was quite shocked by that, and And he said, and people give me a lot of crap for that. And he said, that's because you had a falling out. He said, but I'll tell you why don't count him as a great fighter. He said he destroyed everybody you put in front of him. He was 50 knockouts and all. He won 50 fights straight. He knocked out nearly everybody out. But the first time he got into real trouble with somebody, like in that fight where that formula didn't work anymore, and he came under a lot of pressure, he wasn't able to overcome that obstacle. He couldn't get past that. And then he started to lose. And so that's why I don't call him great. Because to be great, you got to know how to lose, right? Isn't that so like in life? It's like we want to win and we get a lot of victories, but there's times where you lose. There's time where life disavows you of all your accomplishments and the gains, and then you have nothing. And an adept player or somebody like Tokusan understands that playing the game well is what matters. Playing the game appropriately, whether you win, knowing how to win, knowing how to lose. And then he wins every time because he's himself. He can just be himself. It's not a matter of what somebody else thinks or somebody else says, or God forbid, somebody else's understanding of Zen. Right? The whole understanding of Zen is revealed in his getting out of the bath, taking a cup of tea, and patting his attendant on the shoulder. That's a real Zen understanding. The questions and the answers, yeah, that's interesting and that's fun, and it can help drive a deeper understanding. But the greater benefit is the ever deepening knowing of who we already are. Is sinking into these clothes, is sinking into this body, being this one right here, with surety, to be able to say, yeah, this is enough, or this is plenty, this is enough, this is more than enough. This one here, sure, all the flaws, all of the worries, all the concerns, all of the etc., etc., etc. That's everybody on the planet. Nobody escapes that aspect of the human condition. But in our practice of Buddha Dharma, you realize and come to know the one who is always at home. And please, have that be the fact when you sit for meditation, is remember you are sitting in the Buddha's seat and you're at home. Be at home in this mystery, in this self. And I say that and know it's difficult. It's difficult for me too. That's why I practice. That's practice. Over and over and over and over. But to learn that shift, right? That essential shift where the monologue, the mind, the way we're kind of running reality through the filter and the preference and the ups and what we think about it, watch out for that, because that's a story. It can be, it's a useful story. We need it to navigate reality. But that one is always involved in attachment and aversion. That one is always involved in dukkha. So make sure we know and realize the Buddha, this Buddha nature, the one that can watch and experience and allow that to unfold from a place of spaciousness and freedom. And if that spaciousness and freedom is not there, then find it. Extricate yourself. Every one of us can, if you find yourself suffering, extricate yourself from suffering. Suffering based on circumstances, extricate yourself. How do you do that? Let's practice. Okay, we have a little time, a few minutes, 5 minutes or so. I'd love to open it up for any questions or comment, any feedback, any anything you'd like to ask or share. Please feel encouraged to do so. So let's keep our community and our connections healthy and strong. Support one another online, in person. It's a blessing. It's a continued honor for me. I appreciate it. Thank you for showing up. I hope you sleep well, you get a good rest, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.